4,000 years ago, while most of the world lived in small villages, a city rose along the Indus River that should not have existed. Its streets were laid out in perfect grids. Its homes were built from standardized bricks, and beneath those streets ran a hidden network of drains, cleaner and more advanced than many cities today. This city had no palaces, no giant temples, no statues of kings. Yet tens of thousands of people lived here in order, stability, and silence. This was Mohenjo daro. Every house had access to water. Every neighborhood followed the same precise design. Waste flowed away from homes through covered channels, showing a deep understanding of hygiene long before modern science. But here is the strange part. A civilization this advanced should have left behind names, rulers, monuments, something to tell us who was in charge. Mohenjo daro left almost nothing. No royal tombs, no weapons of conquest, no written history we can read. And then, without war, without invasion, without fire or destruction, the city was slowly abandoned. Its people vanished, leaving behind empty streets, sealed wells, and unanswered questions buried under the soil. Who planned this city? How did they live without kings? And why did one of the world's greatest urban experiments quietly disappear? To understand Mohenjo daro, we must first understand how impossible it truly was. Mohenjo daro was not a city that grew naturally over time. It was planned, deliberately and precisely. Its streets followed a strict grid pattern, intersecting at right angles. Main roads were wide and straight, while smaller lanes branched evenly into residential blocks. This kind of layout would not appear again in most cities for thousands of years. But the true genius of Mohenjo daro lay beneath the surface. Nearly every house had access to a private well. Water was drawn close to where people lived, not controlled by a palace or a temple. Bathrooms were built inside homes, with floors carefully sloped to guide wastewater away. That waste flowed into covered brick drains running beneath the streets, inspected, cleaned, and maintained across the entire city. This was not accidental design. It required rules. It required coordination. It required long-term thinking. Even the bricks themselves followed a single standard size, used everywhere: homes, wells, streets, and walls. Such uniformity suggests strict building control, yet there is no evidence of kings, nobles, or centralized monuments enforcing authority. No palaces rise above the city. No temples dominate the skyline. Instead, Mohenjo daro appears to have been governed by systems, not rulers. And that raises a dangerous question. If no king commanded this city, who made everyone follow the same rules? A city is not defined by its streets or buildings. It is defined by the people who wake up inside them. In Mohenjo daro, daily life unfolded quietly, without monuments or royal ceremonies. Families lived in brick houses, built around inner courtyards, designed for privacy, airflow, and shade from the heat. Homes varied in size, but not in quality. Even modest houses had wells nearby, bathrooms inside, and access to the same clean drainage system. This was not a city of extremes. Wealth existed, but inequality was controlled. Archaeologists have found tools for farming, pottery, bead-making, and trade. Seals carved with symbols suggest merchants marking goods, not warriors marking territory. Jewelry made of shell, stone, and copper tells us people valued beauty, not power. There is almost no evidence of large-scale violence, no mass graves, few weapons, no fortifications. Children played in narrow lanes. Craftsmen worked in open courtyards. Food was stored. Water was shared. Waste was managed, all without visible force. Religion, if it existed, left little trace. There are no giant temples, no towering idols demanding obedience. Instead, small figurines and symbols hint at personal beliefs, practiced quietly inside homes. This was a civilization that invested not in kings, but in people. And that makes Mohenjo daro dangerous to our assumptions. Because if tens of thousands of people once lived together peacefully, without rulers, armies, or monuments, then history is hiding a truth we are not ready to face. Mohenjo daro did not end in fire or blood. There are no signs of invasion, no burned layers, no collapsed walls from war. Instead, the city seems to have slowly emptied. Over time, houses were rebuilt with poorer materials. Streets were raised again and again, as if the city was fighting against something creeping upward. Drainage systems, once perfectly maintained, began to fail. Wells were abandoned, order weakened. One theory points to climate change. The Indus River may have shifted its course, cutting off reliable water. Monsoon patterns weakened, turning fertile land unpredictable. A city designed for stability suddenly faced uncertainty. Another theory suggests environmental stress, repeated flooding, rising groundwater, or slow soil salinization that made farming harder each generation. There is no evidence of a single disaster, no final moment, just pressure, building quietly. People adapted at first. Then they began to leave. Neighborhoods thinned, streets emptied, homes were sealed and never reopened. Eventually, Mohenjo daro became a place people passed by, but no longer lived in. And here is the most unsettling detail. When archaeologists uncovered the city, they did not find chaos. They found order frozen in time, tools left behind, pottery still in rooms, wells covered carefully, as if someone planned to return. But no one did. Mohenjo daro was not destroyed. It was abandoned, and that makes its disappearance harder to understand and harder to forget. Because if one of humanity's most advanced early cities could quietly fade away, then civilization itself is far more fragile than we like to believe. Mohenjo daro did not leave us kings, chronicles, or monuments carved with victories. Instead, it left behind ideas. It showed that a city could function without visible rulers, without armies enforcing order, and without temples dominating daily life. Its power was not displayed, it was distributed. The people of Mohenjo daro invested in clean water, shared infrastructure, and careful planning. They prioritized health over spectacle, systems over symbols, and balance over expansion. Even today, modern cities struggle to provide what this ancient city achieved 4,000 years ago: safe sanitation, organized growth, and equal access to resources. And yet, for all its brilliance, Mohenjo daro also teaches us humility, because intelligence did not save it, planning did not protect it, order did not make it permanent. The city reminds us that civilizations do not collapse only through violence. Sometimes they fade when environments shift, when systems strain, and when adaptation can no longer keep pace with change. But perhaps the most haunting legacy lies in what we still cannot read. The Indus script, carved onto seals and tablets, remains undeciphered. We do not know what these people called themselves. We do not know how they governed. Their voices are silent. History usually remembers conquerors. Mohenjo daro remembers cooperation. And maybe that is why it unsettles us. Because if one of humanity's earliest urban experiments succeeded without domination and failed without drama, then our modern story of progress becomes less certain. Mohenjo daro does not ask to be admired. It asks to be understood. And in the next episode, we will confront the greatest mystery it left behind, the knowledge we have lost, and the silence we still cannot break. When Mohenjo daro fell silent, it did not disappear from the world. It disappeared from memory. For thousands of years, its streets lay buried beneath layers of earth, untouched, unnamed, and forgotten. No legends preserved it. No written history mourned its loss. One of humanity's greatest early cities vanished so completely that the world forgot it had ever existed. And when it was finally uncovered in the 20th century, it didn't speak. The bricks told stories of precision. The streets revealed planning. The homes whispered of ordinary lives lived with dignity. But the people themselves remained silent. We do not know what they called their city. We do not know how they governed themselves. We do not know what they believed, feared, or hoped for. Their language, carved carefully into seals and tablets, still refuses to yield its meaning. No names, no laws, no prayers we can understand. Mohenjo daro stands before us as a reminder that history is not written by the most advanced, but by the loudest. That civilizations built on cooperation can vanish without leaving a voice behind. And this is where the story truly begins. Because the greatest mystery of Mohenjo daro is not how it was built or why it was abandoned. It is what we have lost: a voice, a language, a way of living that left no rulers behind. Mohenjo daro has spoken to us through stone, streets, and silence. But its greatest secret is not buried in its ruins. It is locked inside symbols we still cannot read. This was Episode 1, The City That Fell Silent. In Episode 2, we begin the search for Mohenjo daro's missing voice, the undeciphered script, the absent rulers, and the knowledge history may never fully recover. The story does not end here. It begins with what the city could never say.